Hi everybody, welcome to Season 5, Episode 3 of the Hard Truth, Inside the Football History Podcast with me, Philip Ideson, and Darragh MacAnthony, the chairman and owner of Peterborough United. Now, just before we start, I have been asked to remind you that the Football Content Awards voting is going on right now, and we have a trophy to retain. So
we do.
If you would like to vote for us in these awards last year, we're in the Best Podcast Football League category. You have to tell them why we deserve a nomination as well. So I guess Darragh's politics will be the reason for that one.
Go Elon, go Donny. You don't want to mention that Phil loves Kamala, but anyway. Yeah. So make sure you vote for us. Make sure that you put it in, because obviously it gives, like, for people like Henry. Rob, all the people behind the scenes. Me and Phil don't give a fuck about trophies, but we love doing this podcast. Sorry for the cursing, but really it's for those guys to have a night out, pick something up at the awards. So if you love it, vote for us. We'd appreciate the support. Go to
footballcontentawards.com.
footballcontentawards.com, and if you want to vote 100 times over, do that too. So yeah, there you go. On to football. What a pleasant start to the season.
Well, welcome back to the US first and foremost. At least,
nice to be back for a couple of days. Yeah. I go to Auburn tomorrow. Move my son into college. First one out of the house. So that's going to be like not a traumatic few days. That'll be interesting. Then on Tuesday I go to Vero to meet some partners. Got a few days there. Then I got to go to UAE for 4 days at work. Then back to the UK for the end of the window. So it's kind of like going to be a bit like you, whirlwind of travel and stuff. So yeah, nice to be home, see the kids. I haven't seen them in 5 weeks, and obviously we'd like football results to be better for Peterborough anyway. But it's been a bit of a, I wouldn't say sticky start to the season. It's been a frustrating start off the pitch more so than on the pitch, kind of thing, if that makes sense. So where do you want me to start?
Well, let's start with the games, and then we'll talk more about kind of injuries and behind the scenes. So you started on Saturday against Huddersfield, 2-0, 2 deflected goals.
Really? Yeah, and I'm not one for excuses. Huddersfield deserved to win the game. From the 30th minute onwards, they deserved to win, and they were very, very competent, strong, physical side, championship quality. They'll be up there. Yeah. That's never an excuse for us. We should be able to beat anyone at home. So, the manager would share that belief with me. We had a great showing from our fans. There was over nearly 11,000. We had a new fan zone. And for some of the fans out there, quick thing, there's going to be teething issues. People will be moaning about certain things in the fan zone. There's no toilets available. There's a new catering company on site. There's going to be a few, what are those teething problems they call it, as we go into the season. So I would ask the fan groups to lay off and just, stick with us on those things. We'll get it sorted. A bit like with the football as well. I've been on social media since Saturday or Friday regards. There's no point. It's too early in the season. I can only imagine that, there's the hardcore fans who understand what we're doing. Yeah. And then there'll be a few people that have been waiting a year or so to come out of the woodwork, and I'm sure they're sharing their voice and their this and all that.
Or are they even waiting a couple of months to come out of the woodwork?
Yeah, the usual stuff, it's like, but regards Saturday, I was there. I thought we were really good for 30 minutes, and we started really well. Positives. I thought Oscar, even though he's playing out of position, left side of central defence, he looks like an absolute, he looks like a proper player. So, touch wood, long may that continue. Manny's bedding himself in great. We had the Man City boy had a great 45 minutes. He hasn't played really at this level. He couldn't believe the intensity. He looks like a prospect. And there were positives. We should have been 2-0 up inside of the first half an hour. I think Cricky and Ricky both had scoreable chances, and we just bit powder puff, not at it there. And then they scored a really crappy goal. Should never have scored that goal. Both of the goals were crappy goals. And to be fair, the worst part was conceding on the stroke of half time again. It's a shitty habit, and we got to get out of that, because that happened in the playoffs. So there are things we have to. And probably the disappointment for the manager is that we didn't have it in us to come back. And last year we were very good at coming back from behind, and people scoring against us didn't bother us, and that kind of thing. And I think the second goal came from a set piece, where it got recycled and then edge of the box shot in. So we have to cut loads of those things out. So look, the reality is and again, no excuses, fair play to Huddersfield. We're missing some key components. We've been really, last year we had a 94% retention rate for players fit. It was the highest in the EFL. And I don't know if that's cursed us, because we've just had like fucking so many things pre-season happen. And you can take one or two in certain, but like we've just had fucking horrible luck, you know. Unfortunately, Sparksy's come in with Sam Curtis, you know, our fullbacks, and they're miles off at the moment, fitness-wise, like miles off. And you can tell they're almost like carrying caravans on their backs. So we're going to have to work with them. Even last night in the game that we lost to Oxford, you know, they're both good players, but and there's loads to show. And there's no concern from my perspective with the players we've signed. They're good footballers. It's just going to take a little bit of time to get up to speed. And you know, Nevitt was a key component for us because he fulfills the Ronnie quarterback role with that balance on the left side with the left foot. So he's back, thankfully, in 8 days' time, because even though he fractured his wrist and he's been training every day normally, he's not allowed contact, because if he falls and breaks it, it's going to be 4 months. So we've had to basically just go, for fuck's sake. Like,
it's pretty frustrating, right? That you can't do anything with it.
Yeah. And, you know, Rio obviously been, you know, a big signing financially in the summer, been out till November. That's where we got Sparksy in. Unfortunately for Sparksy, he hasn't played much pre-season. Portsmouth have got 2 other left backs. You know, he's been with us 2 weeks. He hasn't had a lot of time. Sam Curtis is a really, really good signing. And again, you know, the deal went on and on and on. It took too long. And really, he should have had 2 like full games for us before starting the season. So he hasn't done a 90 minutes in like 9 months. So, and again, no excuses. It's just, it's those issues, you know. So, and then you go into midfield, you know, and I don't want to hype him up too much, but Hector's the best midfielder in League One, in our opinion. And we're not selling Hector. And we've turned down bids from massive championship clubs, thus backing up my, you know, thought process. He's the best in League One. And we've been so unlucky with him. So he's never had an injury. Touch wood, you know, hopefully this is the last of it, you know, but he's just had this niggly thing with his knee. They finally injected it, and then he wasn't allowed on his feet for 10 days. And, you know, we're hoping he's back. You know, I don't want to talk out of school, but I know when he's back, it won't be too long. But, you know, he's a massive part in there. And then, you know, when you've got a budget in a squad, you can only sign so many players, particularly wages, cap space, all that. And we had Hector, we had Archie, we then had Ryan, you know, who's a young central midfielder and hasn't played a lot for us, but, you know, he's industrious and he's very useful to our squad. Ryan's out for 2 months with a knee injury, you know, and then we've obviously converted 𝗏𝗿 into a central midfielder, and 𝗏𝗿 is a wonderful talent. He was great last night, by the way. He wasn't meant to start last night, but 𝗏𝗿 is like, you know, he's been turned from a 10 into a 6/8. And it's a lot of pressure to put on a young player straight away. He was never meant to start the season. So last night, the Man City boy was meant to start. And again, he needs minutes. He was going to get an hour last night, and 𝗏𝗿 was going to come up. And he's basically taken a shot on the warm-up 2 minutes before the teams are meant to go out, and he's heard something pop. So now we're very concerned about that, because we have no cap space to sign another midfielder. Because obviously the rules, you know, you got a loan, you have to pay. So we're going to have to see what the outcome is. I'd rather it was okay and he's back in a couple of weeks and we're praying there's a scam tomorrow. I'm just like, please, because, you know, if we don't get out of that, or, you know, whatever, I can't sign a replacement. Then we're down to 2 17, 18-year-olds and the 21s. And some fans will be like, yeah, but that's your fault because you didn't have strength and depth. But listen to what I just said.
Yeah.
Hector, Archie, Ryan, Man City boy, 𝗏𝗿. That's 5 central midfielders for 2 spots. Like, you have to build a squad. It's just unlucky. So,
now if the worst does happen for the Man City guy, is it contractually there's not a lot you can do? So you kind of, because I remember we had this conversation a couple of seasons ago with Newcastle, didn't we?
But Man City are better than that, you know. And I'm hoping we can do something, and you know, I'm hoping there can be a solution found. You know, I'd rather the player was fit. The boy's a lovely lad, and like I said to you, grew up Bradford, you know what I mean? He's like,
it sounds like he had a good start on Saturday as well.
He was really good for 30, 40 minutes, you know what I mean? And you know, and then last night's game, to be fair, I know it was 2 shitty goals we conceded and whatever, and our goalkeeper, young Nick, he's got to learn to stop all the nonsense and just boot the fucking ball into touch. Do you know what I mean? Like 99% of goalies, you know, and he got caught last year and injured doing the same stupid thing. And, you know, the management staff and coaches won't want me saying that. You know, at some stage, he's got to, like, he's such a lovely kid. He's too casual and too laid back. He needs to get that out of him. Typical young goalkeeper. But he needs to, like, that ball needs to go 100 yards over the stadium at that stage. Like, stop with the fucking nonsense, because the saves he made in the game shows what a terrific young talent he is. And I want that to be the headlines if anyone's picking up on this. I'm not digging him out. He's got loads of ability and attributes, but he has to stop with the nonsense. So we need to get that out of him. I'm hoping the goalie coach, Paul Gerrard, makes that difference that we couldn't make last year. But we were on top. Oxford were very good, by the way. They made a lot of changes. They were very good. You know, they're grooming and turning into a championship team. But where I felt better last night was we had some great chances. We could have scored comfortably 3 or 4 goals. And truth be known, they weren't even difficult chances. When I go back and I watched the game again today, we actually created some really, really good chances. Malik could have had a hat-trick in his 25-minute sub cameo. You know, we've missed some like absolute easy chances. So that part, we're just a little bit rusty. We're probably unsure of ourselves. There are players playing that maybe shouldn't be playing yet. There are players trying to catch up to fitness. I know everyone wants to go Harry Carey. Oh my God, you've lost 2 games. And oh my God. And it's like, we're going to be a very good team. You know, we've got some issues, but they're not issues that are insurmountable that can't be fixed. They will be fixed. You know, they'll be fixed on the training ground. They'll be fixed with players coming back to full fitness. You know, Hector, I'd want him to play on one knee at this stage. You know what I mean? You know, 𝗛𝗵 𝗃𝗁 as well. People didn't know before the game against Huddersfield, he took a really nasty one on Thursday in training and probably shouldn't have played. And I'm not trying to cover for him, but like, you know, he's the best winger in League One. I'm sorry, again, like you know, the club's bit, you know, we don't want to sell 𝗛𝗵. You know, we want to keep our best players. We feel like we're done for the summer, and the manager's got that decision there, you know, the final decision on all that stuff for this window. And, you know, he took a really bad one on I think it was his right foot or whatever else. So he's not. So again, we need 𝗛𝗵 in the team. We need Hector in the team. We need our 2 fullbacks up to speed. We need George Nevitt fully fit, you know, and you know, the positives last night were the wingers were really good. Like, you know, Abraham, you know, on the left was really good. It was a really, really good debut. You know, Keane's really honest and industrious on the right. You know, they worked really hard. They got in some good positions. I thought Malik was excellent off the bench. I thought Con Clark, when he came on for Joel, was very good. You know, set up Malik with a one-on-one. There were bright spots. And then we need our players who are our top tier players from last year to kick in the gear, because they're probably lacking at the moment. So they need to get their finger out, get off the ledge, get in the game. You know, the season started, you know. So yeah, there are a few bits that we need to do, and we need to create some cap space, because if I need to, you know, if the City boy's not there, you know, regards available, we need to sign another one in there. And, you know, potentially we need a couple of pieces, because I have to create the cap space to get them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to figure something
out. It really
out.
depends on outs, you know, before you can bring anybody else in.
It does. And we've got 3 players that, you know, are meant to go, but the offers have been very, you know, they haven't been great. Well, to be fair, there was, you know, 2 non-league clubs offered full wages for one of them. And like then a League 2 club offered, you know, it was like I think 32% of his wages. But that's not going to help our cap space, because we need to be able to use all of that money to replace. We're not going to be able to bring a player in on £1,500 a week to help us. So
what kind of concessions do, and not specifically Man City, but do Premier League clubs give when they're loaning out their youngsters?
I think what they can do, I think there's a way it can be cancelled. I think there's a way that we don't pay so that we can create the cap space. You know, it depends on the club. You know, that's between us and Man City, and they'll work with us. They're really good, or maybe they can find somebody else for us. You know what I mean, to replace them. So we're going to have those chats with them. They've been as good as gold with us. You know what I mean, and they'll be more gutted than we are, because they really wanted him to have a full season in League One. So yeah.
But even bringing players in, you know, if there's a new player that comes in on loan, you know, how much does finances play into your ability to loan from the top clubs? Like, do they care how much money they get in return as long as the kid's getting the experience? Or
so some do, you know, like the Man City, but we were only paying a fraction, because Man City were more interested in him developing and playing. Other Premier League clubs are a bit more savage, where they want like the full amount, and it's like, well, you know, we can't pay 10, 11 grand a week, because it would completely then obliterate any chance we had. We'd be way over the cap then, and then we'd be in trouble. We'd be getting told, you have to sell a player, or you have to do whatever. That's not about me paying bills. That's about the rules of what you can do, you know? So it's one of them where the manager wants another centre half. I want another centre half, but we need, you know, if Romney's due to go out, he's on the list. We need to do a deal. We need another striker. Well, 𝗛𝗵 needs to go, but, you know, for what we're offered, it's not going to make a difference, you know? So, you know, potentially, you know, David, if he gets bought before the end of the window, allows us to do. So it's all those pieces trying to make it work. So I'm not looking for the pity yardstick here, by the way, because every football club up and down the country has problems. And if my manager has to revert it to an 18 and a 17-year-old from the 21 group, and we've just signed 2 very good ones, well, we'll fucking get on with it. So, and to be fair to our fans, they were really good at home, and it was really lackluster the second half against Huddersfield, where, you know, that's the time your fans kind of like start not turning on you, but they were really, really good. So I think in the mainstay, there's a lot of goodwill there. I think everyone knows what we're trying to do. Don't discount us because of a few bad performances or a few early season things. We're going to, like I said, we're going to be very good. We have a couple of pieces we need to add, and I'll work my magic before the end of the window to do that. But it's going to be late in the window.
Now, I know that, you always have your plan A and your plan B and your plan C. So you got players in mind. While you're not able to do any business at the moment, how do you keep them interested for, when hopefully that cap space frees up so you can do something?
You're keeping an eye on it. You're speaking to agents, you're speaking to players, and you're hoping nobody else nips in that does have cap space to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're damn right. I've got players in mind. There are, specifically 2-3 players in mind that I'd like to be able to do it. And I think they will make us a lot stronger and help us and help the squad. We have a big squad. But again, like I said to you, it's just circumstance that we have 2 fullbacks that are miles behind fitness-wise that will be up to speed and very good. We've got a centre-half that's a specific piece. You don't usually have 2 left-footers in a squad. You get 1 in most squads, left-footed centre-half. And that one that we got was a big asset we acquired. And unfortunately, his wrist. We have a left-back that we thought was going to be one of the best in League One who's fucking, done his cartilage. So we think Sparks is adequate. But unfortunately for Jack, he's just fucking miles away fitness-wise. Sam, the same. So, and then Kwame makes any team in the Championship better, not just the League One team. So you want him at full speed, and it's just like, for fuck's sake. So look, it's woe is me at the moment. I know what it's like. It is what it is. Do you know what I mean? Like I said, last season we were impeccable. I'd love to be able to moan at my sports science team, but none of them are muscle injuries. They're all fucking bizarre injuries, like a broken wrist, a fucking cartilage snapping, a fucking a clean out of a knee. I mean, these aren't because we were overtraining them. So me and the gaffer were speaking last night. And, he's cool. He's been in it long enough as have I. That you take positives and negatives from the game, and there are things you would look at the games and go, I don't like that, and I don't like that, and we have to, But there are also things where you go, actually, well, I like Dibby on the left. He was really good, because we lost Efron. We need that there. We like Keane, and we think he could turn into. Is he ready to dominate League One? No, he's got loads to improve on. But what he has got is endeavour and honesty and work rate. I'd like my strikers to be a bit more prolific, and that goes for Ricky as well as Malik. And we'd like maybe some competition in there for them, and they will get prolific. So I'd like some of my the Joels of the world and the Archies of the world. Hey guys, come on! This is get everyone going here. You're the best, some of the best players in your positions in the league. So those things will fall into place. It's just frustrating when you feel like you get in here and then the Man City thing is just there, and it's like. And I have no problem with Donny playing. The only thing you would say is him and Arch are probably a bit similar. What you need is a 6 and an 8. You need the 8 like the Hector and the 6 like Archie, and they have a lot of familiarity. If you want to play the way we play, that familiarity together and playing together last season, they know each other where they're going to be, and that's really important. But the positive in all of this is Donny's been great, and then Oscar he looks like a proper centre back. I mean, Swedish boy, and he's playing out of position. So there are positives for all the the little bits of moaning. So enough about Posh. We've had an unlucky, shitty start as regards to results. Performances are there in little bits, and you're thinking this falls that way and that falls that way. It's the usual thing, and we'll be okay. I'll figure it all out. But there's a bit of work to do, and there's going to have to be a little bit of tolerance while I go about doing the work. And you don't win league titles in August. So but I don't want to listen either to I can only imagine the media, the press, I can imagine it's pretty savage out there, but I'm just like,
every player is an idiot, and what we're doing with all these gaps in the team, and it's just same as every season, and just a couple of defeats just adds fuel to the fire, doesn't it?
Yeah, football is wonderful, and owning a club is wonderful, and that's you take the good with the bad. As much as you're on a crest of a wave and you're winning games in a row, you have to take it. And football fans are entitled to that opinion. They want to moan, they can fucking moan. What can I say? All I can do is work harder. I know the manager, his team, his staff, the players, they're going to work harder. And like I said, I'm actually very excited about what we can be. Yep. I just want us to get to the point where everyone's available, everyone's fully fit. There's going to be a lot of work going on in the international break when that comes up. I think, there's going to be key moments for us to really kick in. People will be like, well, why didn't you sign those players earlier? Why didn't you do this? Well, there's always a circumstance around where you can't and you have to wait. So that's just the way it goes. But anyway, so what else has been going on in football? Give me the juice.
Well, we had a pretty good win on Saturday.
You did. Unbelievable.
We scored more goals in the first 5 minutes of this season than we did in the first 10 minutes of every game combined last season, which was ridiculous. We scored, I think, 1 in the first 10 minutes of all season last year.
So I saw the MK result. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this, because I saw a lot of MK last year. Did they dominate the football for the game, or have they changed the way they play?
No, they dominated. It was a first minute, 25-yard screamer that we couldn't believe when it went in, and then a 4th or 5th minute own goal, a cross that was going nowhere, hit the defender, and looped over the keeper. And so you 2-0 up after 5 minutes at MK Dons, and then it was basically all them for the rest of the game. They got one back after 20 minutes, and you're thinking, okay, we're probably going to end up getting beaten here because I don't think we can defend this for the next 70 minutes. We had a few chances, but it was pretty much, all them. And so real backs against the wall, kind of defensive. I think, Graham Alexander, and I'd agree with this, said we've probably defended too quickly, the lead.
Right.
And as opposed to, you 2-0 up, keep going. 2-0 up after 5 minutes, imagine it's 0-0. What would you do? As opposed to trying to sit back on your lead, because that's a long time to sit back on. We probably got a little bit lucky that we were able to sit on to it and hold on to that lead for the full game, for the full 90. But, a great result. We haven't won on the first day of the season in League Two, I think, for something like 2008. It's some crazy stats.
That's mental. 16 years.
Yeah. And, away at MK Dons, who, you said last week, they could run away with that league by 10 points. Most of the places you look have put them on top of the table for projections, and they just had their Winkleman just sold, didn't he? To
well, what do you reckon the value on that was? I heard it was like nearly 60 million. Do you reckon that was right?
Well, it depends on the value of the land and the property, doesn't it? Because the stadium came in with it. From a football club.
That came from nowhere.
Yeah.
Came from nowhere. Like, it was a shock. Harry rang me. He's like, wow. Like, what the hell?
I mean, they've obviously been working on it to get it through EFL for a while and just kept it under wraps.
Well, I saw his interview and he was emotional. Obviously, look, I wish Peter all the best. He's a lovely guy. But obviously, this guy's got big pockets. So they've had a bit of a shitty start. I was kind of expecting them to go off like, on fire from the start. I tipped them to win the league by 10 points, and they still might, by the way. So, but you were happy with what you saw from Bradford. Was it any different playing style to last year, Bradford?
Yeah, I think we're so much fitter. And I know last year that was Graham Alexander's biggest challenge and kind of bugbear with the squad is he just felt that they weren't fit and that cost us a few points. I've never seen Andy Cook look as fit as he looks right now, so hopefully that pays off.
Well, that's important.
And so, we were pressing, which we didn't really press at all last year because we didn't have the fitness to press. And you could see kind of between the lines, there was a lot more fluid kind of movement, and with Sarcevic, with Patterson. So it looked positive. I think that, on the negatives, there were, so many gaps you could drive a bus through them. So I'm not sure they got their structure, down particularly yet. We looked weaker at the back, but, it's game one and we beat, MK Dons away from home. So there's not too much to complain about.
No, absolutely not. And obviously you got knocked out in penalties by Grimsby last night. Yeah. Was it just a changed team? Did you change the whole 11? Was there, what was the story?
We changed 5 or 6. So yeah, it was 1-1. We lost 9-8 on penalties.
Gotcha.
And I couldn't watch it because of restrictions over here.
Right.
So I only listened to it. It sounds like it was, 1-1 was probably a fair result. And so, the penalties is a lottery.
Yeah, of course. Why didn't you use a VPN? Not that I should say that in the podcast.
That's a good question. I should have done that. I should have done that and then bought the game, as a one-off or something.
Yeah, because they're all on Sky, aren't they? So it's all changed now. These fucking weird times and kickoffs and stuff. So you can see, or even the League Cup games are all on Sky.
Yeah, so I guess, if I'd have watched it on CBS, I could have watched Wrexham. Like, I'm going to be able to watch Wrexham every week if I want to.
Well, I did see that they had the usual American kind of owner teams as their main matches on the League Cup last night. I did check it before I tuned into my VIP account access. So, interesting. But, oh, by the way, just to let you fans know, the boy Sanderson you got from Fulham,
Yeah,
that's a good one because he was on my potential gem list to acquire as a proper transfer. I'm not saying he was ready for us now, but he was like, when we have our strikers list, we earmark gems, players now, players for the future. And he's definitely got movement. He's got a lot of things I like in a striker. So I think Bradford fans will be very happy with him. So good signing. Well done to Bradford.
Good. I'd not really heard of him before, so I didn't know too much about him.
Yeah, I've got about 5 match reports on him from 21 games from, playing pre-season. So yeah, a good one, I think. Hopefully I'm right about that.
Yeah, and I think that, we're now pretty heavy up front, so I wouldn't be surprised
You are.
if some movement.
Who do you think goes?
I wouldn't be surprised if Jake Young goes.
Okay.
I think that he's a sellable asset. And he's not, front of the line. And you can argue whether he should be or not. And, Graham Alexander is going with players that he obviously knows and trusts. And and Jake, aside from a very good half season, hasn't really done that much, So I can see why we might let him go. We've been trying to get rid of Vidane Oliver, but he's on a lot of money and he hasn't really done much for a couple of years. He played yesterday and got concussion, so that's taking him out for a week or so.
Yeah,
because that was his chance really to come and show that there's a striker in there still.
Of course,
we got Tyler Smith. I don't see him playing much, so we'll see if we're able to ship out any of those. But there's a lot to choose from. In previous years it's been Andy Cook only. So now we've got Callum Kavanagh, who is lively. You got.
What is he not? Is he not like a fan favorite? The boy Kavanagh, is he not like a fan favorite?
Yeah, he's done well since he came in. He's still a young kid, but he came in and he puts himself about a bit. He looks like he's got some quality. I think he got 5 or 6 goals last season, but I think there's a lot of hope for him.
Should it be one I keep an eye on, or is he already on my list?
I'm sure there is nobody that's not on your list that shouldn't be on your list.
Keep me posted on the kid.
But I'm hopeful for him.
Needs games, needs to play, right?
Yeah, and he did last season. And that's when Jake Young came back. We thought that Jake Young would probably take his spot, and then Jake Young got injured, which kept him in there, and he started the season instead of Jake Young. So
yeah, fair play. No, good. Well, look, I'm glad it's been a solid start, for you guys in the league. So that's good. Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
We got Salford at home on Saturday, and then we got Bromley at home the week after. So those are the 2 games that I'm going to get to.
And you want your home form to be good this season, so is all forgiven? Are you allowed back there? You'll have no problem from the higher.
We'll see when I try and walk through the turnstile. See if the season got cancelled.
What have you got left to do in the window, do you think? What do the Bradford fans need?
I still think we need a left-sided, whether it's a wing-back or just a left-sided defender, because we've been put Tyreek right there. Very good going forward, not really a defender. Doesn't track back as much as you might want for a defender.
I've no idea why they haven't tried to do Romany properly. And give him a long-term deal and just get it done. I understand when players are on more money than you want to pay, but it doesn't stop you saying to a player, look, you've got a year left. You're not going to get the same amount, but we're going to give you a long-term deal and we're going to give you perks, incentives. And, a player like that, an agent, have to look at it and go, well, actually, it's not far from where I used to live, and it's, I just for the life of me don't understand why that never, went to a different level. So really, really silly.
Well, I do see today, I didn't listen to the interview. I was just looking at it before we jumped on the call, that Graham Alexander seems to be talking about the fact that he's got a bit more money, or more money has been made available by Stefan to bring in a couple more that he feels that he needs before the end of the window. Yeah. So, maybe that will loosen the checkbook a little bit.
Yeah. It just baffles me, to be fair. But anyway, that's football. So what else
Yeah.
going on in football that we need to talk about?
Let's see. We could talk a little bit. Well, in fact, what we're going to do, we're half an hour in. Let's take some questions, and then we'll see what we've got left at the end. Because I know we're both kind of time pressed, and we haven't really asked many questions.
Definitely.
Recently. So I'm going to go to questions, and then we'll see what time we've got left at the end.
Cool. Makes sense. Awesome.
So let's see. Funnily enough, the first one is about Wrexham and TV. Paul says, I'm a Bolton fan, but I listen to every episode of the podcast. I have a question for Darragh. How have Wrexham been able to get selected as the primary TV fixture for the first 3 games of the season? Wrexham fans can enjoy HD quality. The rest of us are watching low bandwidth. That would make you found a dodgy website showing the game. Is it just the global audience?
Yeah, in defense of Wrexham, because they've built a brand, because obviously they're the hot new thing the last few years. I can understand why the TV companies are showing those games. I can understand, the thought process behind doing that. I wouldn't put them in the same bracket as, say, Birmingham, but I get why it's been done. So so I'm not going to crib and moan about it. I get why fans would be frustrated. Like I said, Salford many years ago were like the shiny new toy on the block, and they were on Sky every other cup game. Wrexham, I think, are a much bigger prospect because of the whole Hollywood behind them. I'm not digging Wrexham out for that. And if you're Wrexham, you're happy to take the glory that goes with it. So at the end of the day, that's the way it is. Money talks and bullshit walks. And Wrexham have been big hitters in the market this summer, and I think they even took one of Rotherham's best players off them. For it was $500,000 and some serious wages. So, they mean business. Like I always said, and I said to my missus, they'll be in the championship before long. So, nobody is shocked by any of that.
And I think Bolton might play Wrexham this weekend. So if they do, then they'll have full HD quality for
Good game. Yeah, absolutely. Good game. So, two modern day titans of League One, you'd call it, I suppose. So, on the spending front. So, yeah, good game. Be interesting.
So a question from Steve, and this is one that we get all the time, so we may as well get it out of the way early in the season. And it's a question essentially, what's the deal with the new stadium? Is the new stadium kind of paused?
Yeah, no, so funny enough, no, because I was actually on a call about that this morning with somebody else. My biggest priority right now, I've always said I've got a couple of priorities. One is taking debt down. The second thing is sorting out the actual current stadium. So, the current stadium has been in receivership for too long. That's not resolved. And I want to solve both those issues. And then I want to meet with the new leaders, the new people of the council, the new people in the city, because regardless who's in power, whether they're left, whether they're right, whether they're climate, way thinking, whether they're not, I think everyone knows what a stadium would do for the city of Peterborough. Having been in Peterborough, having spent time around the centre of town, the city needs good projects. So I think this helps everyone, and I think it's something that needs to be done. And we're getting to the stage where we're growing. We have a project called 10K this season to hit a 10K average, which is an old stadium, which means that we're going to certain games not be able to sell tickets because our capacity is capped at a certain size. And that's where if you had a 15 to 17,500 seater stadium, you would in some of those games potentially sell out. So, and not to mention, we've been really screwed on concerts. Like we could have had 3 great concerts this summer, and they chose to go to places like Northampton instead of us. And that there alone is worth 7 figures to the city. So common sense has to prevail. I want to get my 2 issues resolved. They're on my plate to resolve before this side of Christmas. And then move on to a 2025 vision of working with whoever to try and get some sort of a long-term plan. Another thing on my to-do list as well is I want to expand our training ground with more pitches, more first team friendly, and then have the academy modernized so that they're in their area. There's lots of things going on. Ian Crawford's taken on the women's team to work with the general manager. It's a project I've given him. They're going to hopefully play it. They play somewhere at the moment, so they're going to train, play. It's going to be a bit more emphasis put into them. We're hoping to move our 21s to somewhere as well, and I'll talk about that until it's done. So there's less games on the training pitches. We spent a lot of money during the summer on training pitch and the main stadium pitch. They're looking $1 million. But again, I'd like to improve. Our academy is like blossoming, so I don't want to keep it down. I want to improve it. I want to give the first team then their own independence away, because it can be very chaotic at our training ground. So there's a few different projects going on. But the new stadium is still in my mind all the time.
So does the investment in the Megastore that we talked about last week, does that, how do you think about making investments in London Road when you still kind of, the long-term vision is still...
Yeah, because any new stadium could take 5, 6, 7 years. And it was really funny. Somebody from the fan group who was very insulting to my CEO recently, and I'm going to deal with that in time, they're going to get it from me, called the Megastore Vanity Project for the chairman. And things like that just wind me up. A 600 grand investment is not a vanity project. It's to bring us into the 21st century, because the more we bring in commercially, the more we can spend. If I had the Megastore right now, we'd probably have an extra 200 grand to go on our income, which would allow me to bring in one new player today. And people don't seem to realize that. That's not a vanity project. That's a common sense fucking project. And any clown that uses the word vanity project when talking about something that helps the football club in the long term. And this isn't about trying to rinse fans for more money. I hate accusations like that, because what I did for the last 4 years with price has been kept at a certain level compared to other clubs, and the cost of rising costs like going through the roof in every area of the football club. Like, with all due respect, I'll try to do my best for the fans on that side. Look at our playoff prices the last couple of seasons, cheap as anything. So to have those things leveled at me, it winds me up. The Megastore is basically to bring our turnover up to 7 figures for the shop from a current 6-figure level, and to enable us to go from, we've spoke about Project 10K, the Megastore, those little hurdles we go to will make us, instead of people calling us Tin Pot, we go to the mid-tier size football club, and it will allow us to maybe invest more first team budget wise that we're not allowed to with cap restrictions. So, again, that shows people short-sightedness, but I'm not surprised, because these people only tend to exist, some of them, to moan and moan, and they think I work for them. What they don't realize is I fucking tolerate them.
Yeah.
And that tolerate them, all right, is like when you start doing what you're doing and speak to people who work for me the way you do, and in a misogynistic manner, you're coming for the wrong person, and you're saying the wrong things, and you're certainly like full of self-importance that you don't need to be, and you need to get back in your box, because I am playing games. At the end of the day, when I look around and when the shit hits the fan like it did 18 months ago, it's me who has to solve that. Not people telling me what I should be doing. So again, that like inflamed me there, the whole Megastore thing. Next question.
Well, just a final thing on the Megastore. So essentially, you, from an FFP perspective, you get greater revenue because the Megastore can use stock more and all that kind of stuff. And from an expense perspective, it's a capital expense, so you can amortize that over time. So you're not laying out 500,000 now and saying, "Oh, I can get $200,000 in additional pounds." In additional revenue, let's say. But you're getting the upside immediately, and you're paying for it over the long term. So it gives you an immediate bump in the cap.
And for those worried about, they're using the current lounge that's turning into the Megastore, we're working on a plan to basically have an area in the newer side of the stadium, as promised, some sort of a facility, whether it be a sports bar, restaurant. I wouldn't let people down. It's just, again, people need to stay with us. It's like, so, even though we're going to have to spend on those things on a stadium where you're thinking we're moving to a new stadium, that's great to move to a new stadium, but what about the next 3, 4, 5 years? So, we have to move with the times. So, again, like, using words like vanity project and, this isn't for the fans and with all due respect, it's all part of the same thing. All we try and ever do is do things that are better for our fans. That's the only reason we do certain things. It's not always about the bottom line. It's also about small improvements we can make that make people happier, because we've seen an uplift in new fans, new people coming, and the older fans being re-energized, and we want to buy into that. We want to make catering better. We want to make fan zones better. We want to make our shops better. We want better toilets in our stadium. We want better facilities. There's a plan for all of that, but we can't do it all in one day. So it's kind of like, get off our back.
And that stuff costs more money than anyone can ever imagine.
Of course, and everyone's like, "Oh, you sold players and did whatever." So, and we spent like a couple of million quid on players, more so than anyone else. You know what I mean? So, We spent hundreds of thousands on new pitches. We're going to have to spend probably 750 grand on a brand new stadium pitch at the end of this season. These are things that people don't take into account when they want to moan and they're like, you're doing things cheap and you're not doing. No, there's nothing we do that is cheap. Everything is done with a long-term vision to improve and make the club better. So on and off the pitch.
So we have a question from Jay. Jay's a Reading fan. Sure. Jay's asking, with regards to Birmingham City and the Birmingham spend, if they don't get promoted this season, could that lead to longer term repercussions? Is this a one season or bust kind of, we need to get out this year?
It's not a one season bust. It's a one season, like, they had to remodel their squad. They had to bring in some assets. They had to bring in players that be worth money. Birmingham will be better for it. Even if they're in League One next year, they'll have assets. They'll have players that can sell for millions, as opposed to maybe an older squad that they had no value in selling certain players. So they won't be allowed to spend as much next year, unless they're suddenly turning over 3 times the amount. But in League One, you won't be. But they certainly won't be under restrictions per se, because they'll have also done some of their business over time. I have no problem with what Birmingham have done. If I was the size of that club coming down, and we'd spent a long time in the champ, and we had that 1 year where we weren't restricted with a cap type thing, and we had that bit of time, I'd be like, we're all in. We have to do this now. We might not be able to do this in year 2.
They're a machine when it comes to the ability to drive revenue, I imagine.
Absolutely. And people go on about Wrexham and how can they spend and whatever. When you're bringing in 20 to 25 million in revenue, it doesn't matter who's doing the sponsorship deals. They're legitimate deals. They are what they are. They can spend 60% of that on wages and transfers. So they can pay players 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 grand a week and whatever else. So, you can't be jealous of that. That's just the system. You just have to do the system as best it suits you. And we've always fought that system as regards to, whether or not we can spend this and someone can spend this. We always feel we can still compete. And, what's the point in moaning about it? It is what it is. So I have no problem with what Birmingham have done, and they're not finished yet.
So a question from Brendan. Brendan says, is Posh season ticket holder a day one listener? He's got a question about new kits. And by the way, my youngest is in love with your third shirt that you came out with a few days ago.
Well, you need to give me, because obviously our boys grow and our kids grow. You need to give me their sizes. You need to give me all the info, because I obviously get you kits every summer, and I will get the third kit for them. So because they love that. The third kit's sexy as hell. So anyway, what was Brendan's question?
Brendan's question is, what's the process for choosing a new kit? So who decides what they look like? And, are you kind of going with stock templates and you're just kind of picking a color around it?
No, we work really well with Puma. Alex and his team work with them. I've already seen next year's kits. They give a lot of different options. It's not just a one size approach. We're at that stage with Puma now. We sell so many and we do so well. They've given us like a bit of support as regards to, okay, you're just getting that off the rack now. They're like, look, we've got these designs, these ideas. Alex and his team work with that. It's all down to them. Every kit that's great is down to them. Every kit that's shit's definitely not down to me. So I have to give them full credit. This new third kit will be, a monster in sales. It already is. The home kit, which everyone was kind of on the fence about, is like flying. I quite like that one. The first kit we did that everyone thought worldwide was like sexy. Again, kit numbers are when we have the Megastore as well, and we have this whole central area where it's going to look visually fucking incredible. It's 3,000 square feet, this place, where you're going to see the kits. It's going to drive a lot. And as much as people are like, more money off the fans, we want to get to the stage where, those numbers help drive us in a big way. So like I just said to you, my manager loses a key player, I can go out and replace him 12 hours later. I can't do it, and I'm fucking gutted. I'm on my bass this morning. There's like, if we lose the Man City boy, these are the 2 we want. These have always been on our list, but I can't make the numbers work. So all those things drive things. So in answer to the kid, it's all Alex and his team, and they're very good at what they do. And Alex works with the shop. The ladies who run our shop, we do an incredible job and keep hitting new metrics all the time. And so far so good. I mean, that new third kit it's a great kit. And, I think I saw some people moaning about the prices of some of our training kit the other day. And again, it's like, coming to me on social media.
Trying to compare one shirt to another based on what the picture is online.
That was it, and some big clubs and whatever else. And in fairness, some fans were like common sense, like, well, you're not really. It's not the same. What are you doing? you know, again, it's always to try and make a point like, oh, we're overcharging, or we're doing this, or we're doing that. Like, nobody's forcing you to buy anything.
Yeah.
Nobody's forcing you to go and buy a drink. Nobody's forcing you to buy a kit. We appreciate your business. We value your business. We don't beg for your business, but we definitely appreciate it.
And it's hard to come up with new designs around, you know, you're just traditional all blue, so there's not a lot you can do with that.
Yes,
so it takes some creativity, doesn't it? To
it does.
New ideas every year.
It does, and to be fair to the team, they always churn out some cracking ones. And you know, even I looked at the third kit last night. We were wearing it and stuff, and I was like, "Yeah, this is like a sexy baby, this one." You know, but like I said, I actually love the home kit. Quite like the style of it and the design and whatever else. So I've never been big on wearing kits, but you know, I've got quite a bit of training gear this summer that I wear and around the house and stuff. So you know, long may it continue. We want to get that shop up to hit the million, and then start aiming towards the 1.5 million in the champ. You know, that's like the difference of 2-3 players.
Well, Brendan asked, "What's your favourite?" He asked, "What's your favourite Posh and Bradford shirt? What's your favourite Posh one that you've had over the years?"
I used to. There was one. There was a pink one I really liked. It was with black and gold in it. You know, there's one that, you know, I've liked the ones from the 2011 playoff final against Huddersfield. I think that was a black one with gold trim. I quite like that one as well. So I've had a few in time, to be fair. I always quite like black, pink, and gold as colours. You know, anytime you can blend them in, it's quite nice. I'm okay with just black. Right. No, you can't, and it makes, you know, it's big guys like us look slimmer, and you know, and you know, I know all the tricks, and yeah, black and gold, no problem with that as well. So I've always been like a big fan. Some of the kind of pizza mesh kits they brought out over the years have been quite popular. Not my cup of tea, but like at the end of the day, everyone's got their own taste, right? You know, one man likes or one woman likes, another person hates. So, you know, we're driven by sales. We're driven by demand, and I can see the demand, and it's like, wow. So yeah, long may it continue.
For us, it's funny how you remember kits based on success on and off the field. You know, so actually I can talk to a worse one rather than the best one, which is when we got promoted to the Premier League. We ended up wearing some horrible thick rhubarb and custard kind of coloured. This is our moment, you know, in the Premier League, and we came up with the worst kit you can possibly imagine. Well, I've still got it, you know, somewhere hanging up there with the Premier League patches on the side.
There you go. It was iconic now, you know, cult-like. Yeah.
So we have a question from Jack. Jack's a Shrewsbury fan. I think you play Shrewsbury on Saturday, don't you? He says, I am interested in your opinions on us as a club. There's a lot of discussion within our fan base about what constitutes success for us, given we are now the longest serving League One club. So I'm interested in your thoughts on this and whether us staying in League One, given the huge expenditure of other clubs in comparison to us, is still a success, or should we be looking to push on and challenge the top half?
I've always, it's really funny, when I first bought Posh, I always loved Shrewsbury moved into a new stadium, and it was like, I remember they'd spent 14 million on it, whatever. I was like, this is an awesome stadium. I remember sat up in their box. They have like the directors' seats are up in like these boxes. You know, Roland, who owns and runs Shrewsbury, I've always found it a really, really well run club, good people. You know, I would hate for that to be another one that falls into other ownership, because Roland's been, I think he's been around longer than me. They've always done well, and I think you have to be careful what you wish for, you know, because they pay their bills. You know, they're a well-run football club. They own their own stadium. They haven't got debts hanging out left, right, and centre. And I get the whole, you know, a few years ago, Paul Hurst had them up there and they were competing and they got close, and that's sometimes the way it is. And it you know, it's tough owning football clubs. I mean, I'd love somebody to do a bit of a data or a data dump on where do I lie in the 72 clubs as one of the owners. Like, am I in the top 10 for longest owners? Because Roland's got to be up at the top. When I look through it now, I must be top 15, because I've done 19 years now, I think, like at Peterborough. So the change in ownership is stark. And again, like MK Dons has got sold, and you know, the most recent ones. So it'd be fascinating to find out, because Roland's probably top of that list. I can't remember many other clubs in the 72 in the EFL that have been around longer ownership-wise than him. Maybe one or two. So yeah, Shrewsbury, really well-run club. Nothing bad to say. I've always felt dealing with Roland and transfers and doing business over the years, never a problem, never a mean word, never a, you know, but you can have scraps and rows with clubs and certain clubs and whatever. Always found them to be one of those, you know, just a well-run football club and a good EFL club. But I do know this, that if they did want to sell and Roland wanted to sell, he'd have a long list, because everyone wants to buy an EFL club. So he'd have no problem selling it. But I can't speak for him. I don't know his if he loves owning a club like I do, then I would say he's not in a hurry to sell. If he doesn't need the money, why would he be? You know, he's a custodian. He's been there a long time. He's part of the EFL furniture. Maybe he wants to go forever and give it to his kid. I don't know.
And I look at a team like Shrewsbury and think, you know, when you compare it to our journey, you think, you know, that's obviously Shrewsbury in a really, really well-run club to be able to maintain the position that they maintain, given the size and the revenue potential that exists versus clubs that might have bigger revenue potential. And to stay there, and from memory, I don't think they've truly ever really been in trouble the last few years.
I don't think so either. They're always, you know, they've had a chance, they've not had a chance, maybe, you know, but like I said to you, just a really well-run football club. So as a fan, I get it sometimes. It can be boring, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I think Bristol City fans will be the first to say, well, you know, we're not going up, we're not going down. It's kind of like fucking boring at times and they're a massive football club. So some fans want the heat of the battle one way or another every year, you know, and you know, we say to masochists where you're like, you either want to be promoted or you're fighting trouble or you're doing whatever, you know. So, but I would imagine Shrewsbury start every year thinking they've got an outside chance and trying to do their best. So I can never knock a club for that. Because like I said, they pay all the bills. They do things in the right way. There's never any controversy around the football club. So, yeah.
All right, we've got a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap up actually for today because we had a lot of questions to cover. So Ryan is a Brentford fan. Ryan asks, is it possible to get more details on the Benji Arthur deal? And, you know, maybe if you can't speak specifically to the deal, this is kind of me paraphrasing as well, but Ryan's interested in what sort of deal, what sort of costs are involved, you know, how much are Brentford investing in these, you know, the young players like Benji Arthur that they're bringing into the club?
So it's a 7-figure deal at the start. You know, he's in the England under-18s when they bought him. We had to sell him because he wouldn't sign a new contract. You know, we'd love to have kept him. He'd be in our team this season, you know, all day long. He's a proper prospect. He's a big, tall defender. He can play. I believe Brentford are very happy with him. He's done great in their B team or whatever. They have a system now under 21s. If he plays in the Premier League, we will get a lot more money. If he signs a new contract, we get a lot more money. If he is consistently in their team, we'll get a lot more money. To the point where it'll be worth over 3 or 4 million to us initially, from memory. And then obviously if he gets sold, like Brentford could sell us, if he got sold for 50, 60 million, we have a sell on that would earn us another 8, 9 million. So you always hope it's one of them that's, you know, like Carlisle could end up getting millions out of Braithwaite. You know, you know, I forget the club, was it Maidenhead who got out of the deal for the boy Kilman that went from Wolves?
Yeah, it was Maidstone or Maidenhead.
Maidstone, yeah. You know, again, like I think they got knocked down on their salon, but I'd never get knocked down like that. So, you know, Benji's one of them. I'd be very surprised if he's not in the Brentford first team in the next 24 months. He had that kind of upside to him, hence why he got into the 18s for England, the camp. He was getting picked. We had Bournemouth wanted to buy him. We had Brentford wanted to buy him. We had a couple of other clubs wanted to buy him. We got like 6 phone calls of all top Premier League clubs. We did a deal with the head of football at Brentford, and Matthew Benham was involved as well, to be fair. So we have a good relationship with Brentford. Anytime we have talent like that that's going to be nicked or plucked, we would always approach Brentford first, because Brentford were one of the ones that were a lot more respectful with evaluation, with whatever else, and did it the right way when we did the deal. And I'll tell you another story about that. And this speaks to the character of Brentford and how good they were. When he went and did his medical, it's not that he failed the medical. He had a stress fracture in his back, I believe, which can happen. And it was just an innocuous thing that he was playing with. And I think he needed surgery where he was going to be out for 3 months. Brentford could have pulled the deal. And they rang us and they told us. And, you know, and now he's fine. He's absolutely, you know, that happens with lots of players. It's not like a debilitating thing that you can never recover from. And it wasn't that major. But again, Brentford were as good as gold and try and mess around and try and do anything. They just let us know. And it's a pleasure. Every time we've dealt with Brentford, it's been an absolute pleasure. You know, so I can't speak highly enough about them as a club when dealing with them. They're just like first in class. And you don't always get that with Premier League clubs. And I put Man City in that bracket as well, you know, with their EFL neighbours, because you get some Premier League clubs who just treat us like crap. And regardless, and they're just like, they haven't been like that. And like I said, we have a 14 stroke 15-year-old that everyone's trying to sign, and some of those clubs are like taking the mick, offering 300-400 grand. I don't think I've given that one to Brentford yet, but they love wide attacking players. He's won that. he's going to be special. So you know, you just reminded me. I might have to email Matthew about him. It's like, yeah, but yeah, good talent. And for the Posh fans, the players, you know, at that age, they can't sign a pro deal yet, so I have to try and get the best deal for our club.
I'll send the commission check for the difference between what you would have sold him to and what you were.
Yeah. Very good. Very good.
For a player like Benji Arthur, like how do you balance so you bring in a young player, and there's that balance between I want him to get game time, but I want him to actually come up in our system to learn our system. Like, what's the balance between when's the right time to send him out on loan and when's the right time to keep him in kind of boys football?
This was early days when we went Cat 2, and where we messed up, we had a list of players with color codes where you would have, you know, gold would be 15-year-old, he's going to be in your first team by 18, proper. You would have different colors. The worst color, let's say, is red, where this is players going to be released 17, 18. Don't give them a pro deal. You know, potentially not good enough for the 21s. For whatever reason, a year before Benji suddenly came on the scene, he was deemed as a potential release player. He hadn't developed. He'd had a few issues, you know, injuries, whatever. And then all of a sudden, the summer he came back, he'd grown. He suddenly was training with the first team. He looked like an unbelievable prospect. England got wind of it, invited him to a camp. He basically played for England under 18s. People in that camp start talking to Premier League clubs. Yeah. Suddenly, you know, we wanted to give him a new contract. The manager sat him down. His agent basically deemed that was never going to happen, and he wanted to get him out of Peterborough. So at that stage, if we'd had a 2-3 year contract on him, like we do a lot of our young players, it would have been, no, you're staying with us and you're going to get into our first team. This year, he would have last year been on the bench. Yep. This year, he'd probably be in our 11. You know, maybe we wouldn't have to go out and get another centre half and whatever else. So it's just one of them things, just by luck. And we've got a foolproof system in place that doesn't happen again. Is that, yeah, because you want them on a pro deal at 17 and potentially with a long-term one. We have another kid that's a central midfielder that's come through. He turns 17 in a few months, and I've already got like a 3-year deal, which is the legal one you're allowed to do, pre-signed and done and dusted. So there's no one stealing him. He's going to be our own kind of Jack Taylor type central midfielder in time. And, you know, we're eyes on him, a few of those.
So last question is from Edwanda, who's a Blackpool fan. He said that, you know, he considers Peterborough a near peer rival, similar size of club, similar size fan base. But over the last few years, I'd consider Peterborough to have overtaken us in most of the measurables. What does Darragh think about Blackpool's style of play with Critchley, as Blackpool fans are growing increasingly dissatisfied? It also looks like we're trying to go down a similar path to Peterborough upstairs, and we're developing the youth. So what have we got right? What have we got wrong?
I think they've got a much wealthier owner than me, from what I know. You know, I always thought Blackpool was a bit bigger than us, because around the time when I bought, they were in the Champ and they were in the Prem. Maybe we've got closer, you know, as years have gone by, and Blackpool had issues before the current ownership came in. I can't speak for the style of football, you know, from their manager. I do know he comes from good stock, from being from Liverpool and working in the youth levels, and then obviously with Gerrard and Villa, I think it was. Yeah. He's one of the best managers in League One. He's won promotion, so I can't speak for how they play every week. You know, but they're a club that, you know, similar to us. They pay similar to us. Of course, they're going to be in for similar players like us. Maybe they won't spend as much in the market. Maybe that's a new thing. They'll start doing that. They have a few older players. You know, a couple of mine have gone there, one anyway. So yeah, I can't disagree with a lot of what the guys just said there about we're similar style, similar size, and whatever else. We all have our young, unique way of doing things, identity, you know, recruitment, and a lot of people want to do what we do, and it's what makes the market so difficult now, because everyone, you know, wants to do what Peterborough does, and you know, but it doesn't always work like that. So, you know, good luck to anyone. Yeah, good luck to anyone who tries, and you definitely have the right manager in place to develop those players and play a certain style that befits those players becoming more valuable. So there's all those things that go into it. So, you know, good luck to Blackpool this season. And, you know, it's like everything else. We're in a league now, like I said to you, full of titans paying some big dough, and we're all trying to, you know, kind of gnaw our little bit out of the league for ourselves that we can still, you know, be competitive. So yeah,
those inches would make the difference.
Yeah, correct. When you're not getting kicked in the bollocks with silly fucking injuries. Yes. So, you know, that's the challenge. That's the beauty of the game. So yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, let's call it a wrap there. Thank you, as ever, Darragh, for your time, and thank you everyone for listening in. You're back on the road, so we'll figure out some time
We'll figure it out. Yeah,
we,
let the fans know that we don't hide even in the face of defeats.
Yes.
So as sometimes we're accused of, but hopefully episode 2 will people will enjoy it. And don't forget to listen to Peterborough's own podcast. Posh Unfiltered, which was a title I gave them 2 years ago, and I came up with the idea of getting their podcast out there. There's plenty of room out there. There's another podcast that John Vrell and his 7 mates. Yeah. I don't know how many of them are, but I forget what that's called. But I think at the end of the day, we're all in the same sector, and I think it's great that everyone has a bit of variety. So make sure everyone listens to all the Peterborough-based podcasts, even though that podcast is probably slaughtering me as we speak. For losing a couple of games.
Are you listening into the Posh one to make sure nobody does if they still?
To be fair, I've got no say over that. I think Clive, Phil, the media team, they do a great job, and they can say whatever they want at the end of the day. So they can even call the chairman out. I'm not that insecure person. I just always say, be respectful when you come for us. Like I said earlier, I can tolerate certain things, and I do tolerate certain things, but some things I won't. So with that, we'll sign off. We'll wish everyone the best of weeks, and we'll catch up next week.
Yep. Talk to you soon, everybody. Thank you very much.